Well, we left old snowy England behind, crossed the channel, and we've come over to, well, it's not exactly a summery France, but it's a lot warmer than it is in England, so that's a positive straight away. Been invited back out to Flores, been here a couple of times before, fantastic place, brilliant facilities and some awesome carp too. They've just put a load more in as well. This is the first week of the season. We've got 48 hours, so we're going to have a little go. Hopefully there'll be some nice fish on the bank.
Well, when we left the UK there was still snow on the ground, and whilst it's still below freezing at night here, at the moment there are signs that spring is starting to kick in. It's been a couple of years since we last visited Flores, and in that time the most significant change has been in the team that run the lake. Alan Webb, who we'll meet in a bit, has taken over, and new husband and wife bailiff team of Alan and Helen Johnston live on site, running Flores on a day-by-day basis. But Flores has always been primarily about the carp, and on that score nothing's set to change, only the fact that these days they're even bigger and there's more of them.
44 dead.
44 dead, yeah?
Yeah, 44 dead, mate. See a chunk.
Beauty. Alright, mate, you want a smile now? Ready? Last one, James.
Well, Colin, the lake's clearly been here a few years. Can you tell us a bit about the history of the place?
Yeah, sure, Joe. The lake was dug about 60 years ago commercially as a fish farm by the French. It was used commercially at first for roach and tench, and then he decided he wants to go into breeding the carp.
So when it was dug originally, was it dug with being a fish farm in mind?
Yeah, it was originally dug as a fish farm, hence the reason why the bottom is sloped. There's no major features in it, because obviously you can't have a featured lake if you're trying to pull the nets through. But as the years have gone on, the fish have obviously grubbed around, made their own holes, but predominantly the lake bottom's flat and silty. So.
Cool. Well, I know there's the odd sort of, like I say, there's the odd feature dotted out there, isn't there? I mean, would you recommend people to, you know, spend much time with a marker float, or just?
The main thing I say to the people when they turn up here is, the best thing to do is to find yourself a spot on the lake, put your marker float out, and then cast your baits to it, and predominantly that seems to work. The ones that spend a day spodding or marker floating doesn't really work.
I guess the shallow water, you know, the fish are going to be spooked pretty easily, aren't they?
Very easy, and because it's a shallow water, that's exactly, the fish are just, and they're very clever, these fish in here. The new fish that I've put in up to now are pretty simple fish, they will be caught, but you can imagine in 6 months' time they're going to have wisened up. So I would recommend that they just come, find a spot, put the bait on it, leave it, and that would be my answer to them when they turn up, how to actually fish the lake.
Cool. Right, you mentioned you've had some stockings then. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, we've had 2 stockings this year. We had 90 fish from Lauren Bijou in November, and I have just put in another 60 fish.
So what sort of sizes were the fish that went in?
The biggest fish went in was just under 50 pounds, and the smallest fish went in was just over 20 pounds. But the 90 fish we put in November, every fish was over 30 pounds. It was awesome.
People are a bit spoilt for choice these days as far as French carp fisheries are concerned. So, why should people come here? What makes people come back?
I think basically the facilities. We have electric and Wi-Fi on each swim. We do care. We do look after you, which is backed up by, I'd say, 95% of our bookings being rebookings, and primarily the fish. As you can tell, the fish are nice. Pristine carp, ready to be caught. I think that sells it for Flores carp experience.
Whilst there's been a good number of new fish gone into the lake, there's still a very healthy number of originals. Carp such as this awesome mirror that goes over £48. This is Alan, the lake owner, who surprisingly only gets to fish the lake a couple of times a year.
When you're ready.
He was originally a Flores customer who, as the saying goes, was so impressed he bought the company.
Well, what a fantastic start. Just got back from dinner, light was fading, got my rods out, 2 of them over a bit of bait, one just on a bag. Probably about 45 minutes later, the one on the bag's gone. I've got a big old chunk. What a nice way to start the session. And when he calms down a bit, we'll find out how big he is. Oh mate, chill out. I'd say it's got to be 40.
37.
Is it? I must be getting weak in my old age. 37, not 40 after all. Cool. Oh well, that is absolutely massive, and I'm over the moon with that. Well, look at that for an absolute chunk. Over the moon with that one, and I'm definitely not used to catching big ones, because that feels far heavier than what it is. Right, my back is fully strained, and that rod's not back out yet, so I'm going to pop this one back, flick another bag out there, and you never know, there might even be some more. Top start. Top of the morning. Well, it was a bit of a quiet night, but it all kicked off this morning. Had this one just before first light, and look at that for a carp. Absolutely mental. Proper orangey colours, awesome scales. There's a few in here like this, and they are definitely a little bit special. I've got another one in the net there as well. This one's 23, but who cares how big it is. Look at that, awesome. Right, I'll pop this one back, we'll have a look at the other one, and then we'll have a little look at what I'm doing. And there we go, there's the other one, just under 34 pound. Nice old chunky mirror. Might even be one of the new ones. Chuffed a bit, what a top start to the session. Result. Well, look at that for an absolutely brand new set of lips. No hook holds in there whatsoever. I actually hooked it in the top lip and I can't even see the hole, but that's a prime example of a very healthy and fresh fish. Well, there's the old business end. Bit of tungsten tubing. Haven't used tubing for years. Just something I've never really tend to need these days. But obviously it's one of the rules here, so sticking to the rules. Another rule is lead clips, just for safety aspect. I've got a 3-ounce lead on there. Little stick clip covered up with a tail rubber. That's the end trap, 20 pound coated braid, sort of your bog standard KD style rig with a little balanced bait. It's got one of them hardened live system hook baits with one of the airball 10mm pop-ups on top. They're surprisingly buoyant actually, them, so you only need sort of half or just over half, and that sits balanced and absolutely lovely. I'm actually putting a stringer on this. Don't see many people using stringers these days, but it's just something a little bit different. And as you can see, I've mixed up the old boilies a little bit too. Got a couple of larger ones and a couple of smaller ones in the live system and the N-gauge. Just to make sure that doesn't tangle, I'm just literally going to wrap that excess PVA round and then hook the hook through there. And as you can see, it's all lovely in place. I'll just get rid of that tag. She's ready to go. Lovely jubbly. Right, as far as my spots are concerned, I've got one out sort of slightly to the right, it's probably about 75, 80 yards. I've put half a dozen spods on top of that one, just a few 10 millers, a few chops and that. That's the only rod I've really put much bait on. The other one I'm fishing sort of 20, 30 yards to the left of that, just a little bit shorter, and that's just literally a single bag with a hook bait. And then the other one's 30 yards off that bank to the left there, and I'm sort of spraying 50, 60 baits over at a time. So far I've had 2 fish off that one and 1 off the single bag, so nothing off the bait rod at all at the moment. Right, I'll get this one back out there. This is the one over the bait, so you never know, they might have got their heads down whilst I've been at breakfast. It's actually quite a shallow lake, is Flores. This is the shallow end. Basically, it sort of slopes off gradually until you get to the far end, which is quite a lot deeper up there. I think from memory you've got sort of 10 feet up or so up there in the deep end. But literally up here it's sort of 2.5, 3 foot deep. You cast out, you stop the lead before it hits the water and you still don't actually feel a drop. But the fish do get up here, they love it up here. Obviously the fact that, you know, if you've got tight lines going through that shallow water, the fish are going to feel them and spook off them. So the best thing you can do is once you've cast out, just pull off absolutely loads of line and just let it just embed itself into the soft sort of lake bed. And that way it's out of harm's way. And even if it is slack and they do sort of pick it up with their fin or something, it's not that bowstring line. So I don't think they spook off it as much at all. So yeah, it's definitely a good tip. Keep your line slack. Don't think you need back leads, to be honest with you, especially if you're using fluorocarbon. Obviously, if you're using a normal mono, it might help just to pin them down a bit. But yeah, nice and slack is the way forward. Well, Alan, you had a pretty good week so far, haven't you?
Yeah, started really well. Only halfway there as well. So,
go on then, mate. What you had?
I've had a 26 mirror, a 34 mirror, 42 common, a 52 common, and this morning I had a 49 mirror. So, really good session. So, still hopefully get a few more yet.
The boss is catching all the big ones.
Trying.
Okay, mate. So how are you approaching this swim? Obviously, I know you've got a bit more depth out here.
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper here. Straight in front, it goes 6-7 foot, and it goes down to about 8 or 9 foot. Still silty like the rest of the lake, really. Sort of 6 inches of silt. And I believe all I'm doing is sort of a KD rig. I'm using a live system this week, and just a few freebies around it. Nothing major. Obviously, it's still early in the year. They're only just waking up, so I'm not putting too much bait in. Usually, I like to fish with a little bit more bait, but because of the time of year, just taking it easy. Yeah. Still, I mean, this morning was still -2 or something this morning, so just taking it easy.
Cool. All right. Are there any particular hot spots in this swim? Because I mean, you've got loads of options here, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fishing a different area each time rather than putting my eggs in one basket. I've got one right out to the right in the open water, one just off the sluice gate, and then one right in the margin. I'm just using the boat for the left-hand rod, just to get it sort of a rod length off with a nice tight patch of pellet, and that's what went last night with the mirror. So
nice.
Hopefully we go again.
have you had them on all rods?
All rods, yeah.
Rods, yeah.
All 3 rods. So yeah, pleased about that as well.
Obviously, you've been here a fair few times, and I know it's tricky because you come at different times of year and it's a different story. But
yeah.
Any particular tactics that you recommend to people?
The best advice I'll give to people is keep it simple. I get people ring me up the month before. Don't need to do this, need to do that. Just keep it nice and simple. Do what you do at home. There's no tricky bits to fish, no snags or anything like that. Just keep it nice, simple rigs, knotless knot, KD. Maybe blowback. About as complicated I would make it. In terms of bait, on a normal session, I said it's a little bit different this week because it is so cold. I would sort of start off between 5 and 10 kilo. You can always buy more. You don't have to commit to more. They're available in kilo bags. So if you find you're getting through it quickly, you can always top up along the way, rather than have 30 kilo sitting there thinking, I've spent all that money and I ain't going to use it. So that's the benefit of having the bait on site.
Brilliant. Well, here we are. It's the second evening. Not long after dinner, got back and I thought I wasn't going to put any bait out because I did put some out today. So, there's been enough out there for them to be grazing on. Whilst everyone else was putting a load out, I thought I'd just flick a couple of bags out. And first common of the trip for me. And it looks like a nice chunk. I don't really want to pull him straight upwards, so turn the rod a bit and steer him round. Yeah. So another chunk. 36, 37, just under 37 I'd say. Oh, well I've just slipped into my old photo clothes. Worth having a set, otherwise you just get everything covered in slime and wet. And obviously when it's cold, you don't want to be wet. And there she is, chunky old upper 36 common. Nearly as deep as it is long. Unbelievable. Well, it's definitely a good bit of exercise, this, lifting all these big ones up for me. Who needs to go to the gym? That is the definition of a chunk. Won't be long before he's £40, I'm sure. Really coming on well here in Flores. Really impressed. And some really nice big commons out. Oh! I've she goes.
As Joe mentioned, we were only there for just over 48 hours, and in that time we saw so many fish on the bank. Fisheries that don't invest in not only their stocks, but also in the anglers that are coming to fish there, will soon be found wanting. But from what we saw, Flores had more than one eye on the future, which can only be a good thing.
But I don't know about saving the best till last. I've saved the smallest and the oddest looking one. But I do like a character, and he certainly is. Look at the shape of that. Pretty much a leather as well. Obviously there's a couple of scales towards the tail and one or two around the gill plate, but yeah, that's probably a 98% leather, that one. And that rounds off an awesome trip at Flores. It's been great to be back. You can see the place has come on leaps and bounds. The fishing's awesome, the staff are brilliant, and the food's exceptional. Fully recommended by us. Awesome.